Imagine being trapped in a cave for 3 days while a freezing blizzard howls outside. You have no internet, no books, no radio, and your only companions are people you have seen every single day for your entire life. This was the reality for the vast majority of human existence. We think of ancient humans as being in a constant, breathless race for survival. We imagine them running from lions, shivering in the cold, and frantically hunting for berries. But the truth is much quieter and, frankly, much more boring. Modern hunter-gatherers, like the Hadza of Tanzania, actually spend a significant portion of their days sitting around, resting, and talking. Survival is hard, but it is not a 24/7 job. Once the fire is lit and the meat is roasting, the human brain starts to do what it does best. It gets bored. And a bored human is a dangerous, creative, and endlessly inventive animal. If you lived 30,000 years ago, your primary source of entertainment was the same thing it is today: other people. Gossip was the first social media. It was not just idle chatter, it was a survival tool. By talking about who was reliable, who was a cheater, and who had the best hunting spots, early humans built trust networks. If you weren't part of the conversation, you weren't part of the tribe. You literally could not afford to be boring. But talk can only go so far. Sometimes you need a distraction. This is where the oldest toys in human history appear. Archaeologists have found small, carved figurines dating back over 35,000 years. The Löwenmensch, or Lion Man, of the Hohenstein-Stadel is a prime example. Carved from mammoth ivory, this creature is half human and half lion. It wasn't a tool. It didn't help you hunt. It didn't help you build a shelter. It was art. It was a story trapped in stone. When an ancient artisan spent weeks carving that figure, they weren't just killing time. They were projecting their imagination into the physical world. Music was another essential pillar of ancient leisure. In the Hohlefels cave in Germany, scientists discovered a flute made from a vulture bone. It is roughly 40,000 years old. Imagine the sound of that thin, piercing whistle echoing against the cave walls. It wasn't just background noise. Music synchronizes brainwaves. It creates a feeling of collective effervescence. When everyone in the group is drumming or singing together, the boundaries between the individual and the tribe dissolve. It was the original rave. Then there were the games. While we don't have the rule books, we have the pieces. Small, rounded pebbles, marked stones, and knuckle bones have been found at sites all over the world. These were the precursors to dice. The urge to gamble, to assign luck to objects, and to create a structured competition is hardwired into us. It turns out that humans have been playing games of chance for tens of thousands of years. We love the tension of an uncertain outcome. Whether it was betting a handful of dried meat on which stone fell face up, or competing in foot races to see who was the fastest in the group, we have always needed to turn mundane moments into contests. But what about the deep, dark, lonely boredom, the kind that strikes when you're out scouting alone? For that, humans developed the most powerful technology in history, the narrative. We are hardwired to look for patterns. We see faces in clouds. We hear ghosts in the wind. We create myths to explain the world because a world that makes sense is less terrifying than a world that is random. The cave paintings at Lascaux or Altamira weren't just drawings, they were movies. When you view those flickering, moving images by the light of a torch, the shifting shadows make the animals appear to move across the rock face. It was the first animation. It was a way to share the thrill of the hunt, to teach the young, and to escape the confines of the present moment. By telling stories, we could travel to the future, revisit the past, or even enter the mind of a predator. We also have to talk about the physical body as a source of entertainment. We think of ancient humans as peak athletes, but they were also masters of play. Archaeological evidence suggests that the endurance run, the very thing that allowed our ancestors to hunt by exhausting their prey, was also a social activity. Running, wrestling, and dancing were essential parts of ritualized leisure. Dance, in particular, served as a way to release tension and demonstrate physical health to potential mates. It was a high-stakes performance disguised as a party. As we moved into the Neolithic period, about 12,000 years ago, life changed drastically. We stopped wandering and started farming. Suddenly, the boredom changed shape. It wasn't the boredom of the hunt, it was the boredom of the cycle. Hoeing, weeding, harvesting. Repetitive, back-breaking labor. This is when humans started getting really creative with their downtime. They invented alcohol. Some anthropologists argue that we didn't start farming to get bread. We started farming to get beer. Fermenting grains allowed for celebrations that could last for days. Alcohol lowered inhibitions, strengthened social bonds, and made the monotony of agricultural life bearable. It was the social lubricant of the early village. Even in the most ancient civilizations like Sumer or Egypt, we see the rise of organized play. The royal game of found in a burial site dating back to 2600 BCE, is essentially a precursor to backgammon. It had a board, counters, and dice. It was found in the tombs of kings, suggesting that even in the afterlife, the greatest fear was eternal boredom. They wanted to take their games with them. Why did we spend so much energy on things that didn't help us survive? Why carve a lion man? Why sing until your throat is raw? Why invent a complex game of dice? The answer is that the human brain is a prediction machine. It is constantly scanning the environment for information. When there is nothing new to learn, nothing to hunt, and no immediate threat, the brain starts to turn inward. If we aren't stimulated, we become anxious, depressed, and disconnected from our tribe. We didn't just invent games to kill time. We invented games to keep our minds sharp for the moments when survival actually mattered. Think about the sheer cognitive load required to master a game, learn a complex song, or memorize a long, multi-generational myth. These activities are mentally exhausting. They kept the brain plastic and flexible. The people who were best at storytelling, best at games, and best at finding joy in the mundane were the ones who held the tribe together. They were the ones who ensured that when the winter came, the group didn't just survive, they stayed sane. Today, we look at our screens to escape the boredom. We scroll through infinite feeds of information. We have the world's knowledge at our fingertips. Yet, we often feel more bored, more anxious, and more disconnected than our ancestors ever were. We have outsourced our imagination. Instead of creating our own stories, we consume thousands of pre-packaged ones every single day. Instead of playing games with our neighbors, we play against strangers on servers thousands of miles away. The ancient human didn't have the luxury of endless consumption. They had to be the creators of their own reality. When they were bored, they didn't look down, they looked at each other. They picked up a rock and made art. They picked up a bone and made music. They looked at the stars and made gods. They understood that the void of boredom was not something to be filled with noise, but a space to be filled with meaning. So, the next time you find yourself staring at a wall, waiting for a bus, or sitting in a quiet room, don't reach for the distraction immediately. Allow the silence to settle. Remember that your ancestors sat in that same silence for thousands of years, and in that silence, they built the very foundations of human culture. They didn't run from the boredom, they invited it in. They turned it into the song, the painting, and the story. Maybe the reason we feel so restless today isn't because we have nothing to do, but because we have forgotten how to do nothing at all. We have traded our capacity for wonder for a capacity for distraction. Perhaps the most radical thing you can do in an age of constant connectivity is to embrace the stillness. Because if history has taught us anything, it's that when a human is truly left alone with their own mind, they are capable of creating things that can last for 40,000 years. What will you create with your next quiet moment?